Hey everyone, this is the first episode of Doll Me Maybe. I'm M, let's get started. Here I'm looking over the dolls and their accessories, and the sunglasses broke, so whoopsie, we're going to throw those away because I don't need them for this project anyways. I bought these two dolls with the express purpose of doing makeovers for them. I have two concepts in mind for these dolls for me and my best friend. This Draculara doll will be for my friend's concept doll, which will be a witch forest nymph style character. I kept this one for that doll because her pointy ears give kind of like an elf type vibe. I think that will work really well with that character. This Laguna is for a character I have in mind. I have this concept for a siren type Rusalka character, and I'm very excited to get her started, but that'll be for another video. The first step, we have to get rid of the accessories and the clothes.
What happened to hello? How are you? My name is.
I enjoy the hair in this doll. The only thing is it was a bit matted and had some tape in it, so it just had to go. We had to cut it as close to the scalp as possible to make the hair removal as easy as possible. So that's what I'm doing there. Getting rid of some of the factory tags in there as well. They were stuck in the back of the head, which is what I'm snipping off in that moment, and then just getting as close to the scalp as possible with those big scissors. And as I get to this point, I realize that this is a good place to stop for the time being and move on to the next step. Obviously not before cleaning up my workspace of all the spare hair that I have left behind. For this doll, I will be using pre-stretched braid hair in the color 30, that middle color right there. Now for the hair removal, we have to heat up the head a little bit with some hot water. I have Draculara's head soaking in a bowl of just boiling water. I let it boil and then get to a little bit cooler so that I can dunk her head in there and get the vinyl soft. And she's been in there for about a minute, so it was time to remove the head. Now for this portion, I will say I am getting the hang of removing the head for hair removal, but I had to fast forward this because it was just kicking my butt. I see people doing this and they make it look so easy, but for me, I'm always on the struggle bus when it comes to this. That seemed fast with it sped up, but I promise you that was like 5 minutes of me trying to remove that head. So we are going to take the body and we're going to put that to the side for the time being. And then what you do is you take the flathead screwdriver and kind of just scrapes the hair out through the scalp. And that's what I'm doing right here. And you want to be a little bit more delicate with this because you don't want to split the scalp, and this is also why you want to get the hair as short as possible, because if it's longer it's going to kind of tug and pull at the scalp holes a little bit more than if you had it a little bit shorter. And I actually had to come through with a smaller scissor and trim this a little bit shorter to get all the hair out by the end of it. As you can see in the video, it's just a lot of back and forth. It's scraping the inside with a flathead screwdriver, then getting tweezers to pull out the hair that's in the scalp. As I had to go and trim the hair shorter, so it was easier for the hair to come out the inside of the head. This step in the process is probably my favorite. It's so bizarre, such a weird thing to do to a doll, but it's also somehow really meditative and pleasing at the same time. I was not one to play with my dolls in a rough way as a child. I did not make a weird Barbie. I took very good care of my dolls. So this feels like sacrilege, but in the name of doll makeovers, it is part of the process. By this point, I have removed all the hair, and I was showing you that I needed to be very delicate with that scalp because it felt like it was a little bit rough when I was pulling out the hair. And this is very unfortunate foreshadowing because later on, I absolutely do split the scalp. So I was just wanting to give it a rest to prevent that, but didn't work. At this point, I will start the rerooting process. I will take the pre-stretched hair and I will trim it down because they are long wefts. Well, they aren't wefts, they are just pre-stretched hair. And even cutting them in half, they are quite long on this doll's head. But after styling and trimming, it shouldn't be too overwhelming for the doll. And here I was gauging how long the hair would be on the doll and sort of comparing it to her skin tone, which was kind of for naught because her skin tone will appear much different once the face up is complete. But you see that tool I have in my hand is for rerooting, and I have to take little strands and root them with the little needle tip and just go hole by hole and just install the hair that way. This is a very long process, so I showed you the beginning of the process just to show you how it's done, and then I had to fast forward through this because it takes a long time. I think for this doll, altogether for the hair root, it took 8 hours, and that was especially unfortunate because literally on the last hair I installed, the last strand, I split her scalp, and I was stressed. I was panicking. I was like, I did not do 8 hours of work for nothing. We have to fix this. We have to figure something out. And I did. I mean, when we glue the hair in at the end, it is a very strong bonding glue, and it made her scalp pretty stable. So that was very helpful. But this is me telling you that we are just going to speed through this process. Insert mildly impressive transition. Off camera, because I was stressed, I plaited her hair into braids because I wanted to have a wavy look with her hair. And I removed the makeup as well. I should have done that on camera probably, but when I tell you I was stressed, I had a lot going on. The scalp split, I was dealing with stuff at home with plumbing and whatnot. It was a lot. I was panicking pretty much every day, but I'm showing you right there that I split the scalp right up front, and I was not happy. But with the design of the doll, I had an idea on how to cover it up / maybe bring attention away from it. So we will talk about that later on in the video. For this character, I had a very specific idea in mind that I wanted for her. I wanted to give her an anime type look, not a straight up anime eye, but I wanted to combine all the characters that my friend loves and everything I love about him and imbue it into this doll. So I had this idea to do galaxy eyes. I constantly have these character concepts just swirling around in my brain, and this is a really great outlet to bring these characters to fruition. This doll is an other dimensional being, a witch on our plane of existence, who sees all of time and space and experiences all of time and space in perpetuity. So through her galaxy eyes, she is seeing everything all at once. And I kind of thought that was really cool. I wanted her to have earthy makeup as well. I wanted to give her a little bit more like pinky hues in the highlights and give her a little bit more sculpt to her face, but make her face in the end very soft. As you see, I'm taking a Q-tip and adding a little bit of green to the eyes as an eyeshadowy type of smoky eye look. And unfortunately, this is my first video, so I wasn't really paying attention to where I was recording. So a lot of my work is cut off, half off camera, or completely off camera. So I apologize for that. I will fix that in the future for future videos. So for my degree, I actually do have a bachelor's in theater. And that was surprisingly beneficial because a lot of the skills I needed for this doll were one-to-one substitutions. So doing this face up was almost like doing stage makeup. So that was very helpful. I creased the brow of her eye with a little bit of orange to make the eyebrow pop. And then this is just me adding more and more layers of makeup to the lips, to the cheeks, to the contours that I needed to shape the face in the way that I wanted. So here's one thing about me. This is my first doll makeover video. Makeover at all, not just video. This is, I recorded this process just in the off chance that it turned out well. I have no experience with these types of projects. I watch doll refurbishing and makeovers and doll face-ups and rerooting on YouTube all the time. They are kind of a comforting thing to put in the background and just something I find genuinely interesting because I love toys, I love dolls, I love doll making, I love puppets. So if there's one thing about me, it's that I have the audacity. My mother told me as a child that I could do anything I set my mind to, and I guess I took that literally. So there you go. That's how we ended up here. And as I mentioned before, I have all these character concepts in my mind that I want to get out into the world. So I have this witchy type character and the siren character I mentioned earlier. And I want to create this sort of fantasy world populated by the doll characters I make. So I'll continue to add to that over time as I progress in my skill set. And as the face-up continued, I was just putting more and more layers of color to deepen the details. And then I moved on to the body blushing, which I buffed out the body with a nail buffer to get off the factory sheen. And then I sprayed it with Mr. Super Clear and then just brushed the joints with a color that worked for the doll. So this was me doing a little bit of touch up and then illustrating that I was going to put on some Mr. Super Clear and then move on to the next step, which this part was once I put on the Mr. Clear and let it dry, I can put on more layers and add more depth if I needed to the makeup. And here I decided I wanted to add freckles. I had already done that and deepen the eyes a little bit. And here is where I was going to add the stars to the eyes of the galaxy eyes. The dots added a great accent to me. The crosses didn't turn out quite how I expected, but they're a happy accent. I think I learned a lesson to be a little bit less heavy-handed when it comes to applying acrylic paint with toothpick in the future. But then I added some varnish to the lips and worked on the eyebrows a little bit more as well. And then here's me adding varnish to the eyes to add a little bit of shine to also make it pop. And this is a great way to accent the work. Like the lips and the eyes just have this great attention to them when it dries and the finished product comes to life. But also that little green circle next to her is the crown that I have in mind to cover up the split in her scalp. And there she is with her hair styled and a couple of bracelets I made out of actually hair accessories from my niece's braiding kit that she no longer wanted and gave to me. But I put on the crown with a ring. You can't really tell in the video, but there's a ring in the front of it to kind of simulate the third eye in this character. And I was on the step of making the costume now. The color palette is very reminiscent of Frodo from Lord of the Rings, so I wanted to give that vibe in this costume. And I wanted to make a almost hobbit-like witch, and I had that twine to use almost as like a corset cincher for the dress. And here I am, just fast and loose trying to make a pattern. Believe it or not, I did work in a costume shop for a couple of years. You may not be able to tell by this haphazard approach to making the doll's costume. In my defense, I always worked with patterns and I've never learned how to make my own patterns, so this was just, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. And I glued the outfits in place so that I could sew them easier, because I found that when I tried to sew without gluing them, they kind of slipped because I had very little to hold on to, unlike a human-sized garment that I have a lot more material to just keep rigid and keep in place as I'm sewing it. And who knows, that might be an excuse. I just need to get better at making doll clothes apparently, but this is just my approach for the first time, so sue me, whatever. But here I am, just trying to measure with the board that I'm on for the cloak. This is also very haphazard, and I had this idea to have the hood be like pointed like a witch hat, but obviously not wanting to give the wrong vibes with a pointed hood. So they tried to make it a little bit like floppy, which in the end was completely pointless because she had so much hair I couldn't even put the hood on. But you know, it's the little details that make the difference. So here I am trying to figure out what points to glue it at and where I can make a clean edge rather than having those frayed edges just often open and ready to just destroy the garment in the future. Even though this is an art doll, I want the clothes to be as good a quality as I can make them, which, you know, for all intents and purposes isn't great at this current moment in my life. But this is, it turns out really well. So I hope that you guys enjoy it. But here I have it all glued together, and I just have to wait for the glue to dry, and then I can sew it up. So we'll come back and see the final result. Here it is. So presenting Mirage, the beautiful witchy hobbit forest nymph. I'm pleased with how she turned out, and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you for watching.